Okay, let's really unpack this.
Hmm.
Imagine for a second, what if the unique way your mind works, your consciousness, all your memories, your actual sense of self, what if that could be like preserved,
Mm.
backed up maybe, and then used again, totally separate from your physical body?
Yeah, it's a scenario where the death of the body isn't the end anymore. It becomes, well, maybe optional, not inevitable.
Optional, right? That
Yeah,
just forces you to completely rethink what existence even means, doesn't it?
absolutely. We're looking at a potential future built around, uploading ideas, maybe storing consciousness in the cloud, staying aware even after the biological system fails.
And that massive idea, that's what we're diving into today. Transhumanism. It's this ideology, this movement really, focused on making things like death, disease, even our basic limitations
Yeah.
elective.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
It's no longer just science fiction fodder.
exactly. That's the core message from the sources we looked at.
Yeah.
Our mission today is a deep dive into this whole movement because, well, it's not theoretical anymore. It seems to be an organized ideology, a technological frontier that's rapidly getting closer to our actual reality.
And just to be clear on the definition, transhumanism is essentially the belief that technology can, and maybe even should, be used to fundamentally improve humankind.
Improve in what way, though? Like better healthcare.
What? Yes, but way beyond that. Its followers really envision a time where aging, sickness, maybe even natural death itself could be overcome. And they're looking at tools like, advanced gene editing, really sophisticated AI, and this rapidly growing field of brain-computer interfaces.
Okay, brain-computer interfaces. You mentioned rapid progress. And that immediately makes me think of the core prediction that seems to anchor this whole ideology, the singularity. That feels like where we need to start, detailing the specific tech benchmarks the sources keep bringing up.
Right, the singularity. It's a concept heavily pushed by theorists like Ray Kurzweil.
Mhm.
And it's basically the point where technological growth becomes so fast, so exponential, that human life as we understand it,
Mm.
it just fundamentally transforms.
Reforms how?
Well, the sources project this could actually happen within this century. It's supposed to be the moment where biological intelligence and artificial intelligence essentially merge, becoming almost indistinguishable in complexity and capability.
A complete merger. Wow. But, okay, let's keep this grounded for a second. What are the actual technical milestones they mention? It can't just be a vague feeling that AI is getting smarter,
Right.
right? Are there, like, specific metrics we should be watching?
Yeah, that's where it gets interesting and a bit more concrete. Kurzweil's models, which pop up a lot in the material, they suggest a really specific benchmark. It's tied to processing power.
Okay.
So to hit that critical point where AI actually surpasses the combined intelligence of all humans,
Yeah.
the target is computing speeds around 10 to the power of 16 calculations per second per $1,000 spent.
10 to the 16th per second per $1,000. Okay, that's a seriously specific computational target. And technologists are actually racing towards that right now.
That's the idea, yes. It provides a tangible goal.
It's a powerful metric, definitely. But does everyone agree on that timeline? Does that 21st century projection hold up across the board, or do the sources show some, pushback?
Oh, absolutely. There's definitely pushback. The critics highlighted in the sources point to some pretty significant bottlenecks. The big ones seem to be around material science and, crucially, energy constraints.
Energy, right. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, they argue that even if computing speeds keep accelerating like mad, the sheer amount of energy needed to run, potentially, trillions of interconnected digital minds. Well, that's one issue. And then there are the physical limits of just moving that much data around efficiently. Those factors might push the timeline back quite a bit.
So it's not a done deal timeline-wise.
Not at all. But crucially, even setting these incredibly ambitious targets, it starts to fundamentally change how we even define existence, doesn't it?
It does. And if we sort of accept the premise, just for argument's sake, that we are heading towards some kind of merger, then the immediate philosophical question just jumps out, right? If we manage to transcend our physical limits, our cognitive limits, does that make us something totally new, like post-human? Or are we somehow still human?
It completely flips the old evolutionary debate, The attraction is that this is like self-directed evolution. We're choosing the path, but the risk, the huge risk, is losing the very identity we were trying to preserve in the first place.
Okay, so let's pivot then. Let's talk about the carrot, the incredible, honestly, almost boundless promise that transhumanism offers. Because the benefits are clearly what's attracting all this investment and, frankly, fascination.
And what's really striking there is just the sheer scope of it all. The promise isn't just about like incremental repairs or better medicine. It's framed as total transcendence. The sources tend to highlight outcomes based on two main goals: achieving absolute longevity and gaining limitless capability.
Absolute longevity. Okay, that's basically the end of biological death, right?
Yeah.
But limitless capability. What does that actually look like practically once we're potentially digital?
Well, think about instant transfer of knowledge. Or even skills. For instance, some of the BCI research discussed, it's not just about reading brain activity. Some systems aim for bidirectional integration,
Bidirectional meaning.
meaning the system could potentially write new data back into the brain.
Yeah.
We're talking complex skill sets, maybe even optimized emotional responses written directly into the human cortex.
Wow. Okay, so uploading my consciousness is one thing. But exploring galaxies just using your mind or living in some kind of virtual paradise designed for maximum pleasure, that starts sounding like the ultimate trip, like investigating eternity itself.
Exactly. If you can overcome the biological need to die, the constraints of time just evaporate. The possibilities shift away from mere survival towards pure experience. The sources often toss around this term post-human hedonism. It describes this potential state where the digital mind lives in a reality completely tailored to its desires, free from all pain, all want.
Post-human hedonism. I mean, it sounds great on paper, obviously, but if we do achieve that total transcendence, if we manage to remove all limitations, all suffering, then the next much harder question pops up.
Right.
What kind of person is left? What kind of meaning exists then? And this brings us squarely to the potential hidden cost of this utopia.
Right, and this is where we really start bumping up against the definition of humanity itself. If suffering and limitation are engineered out of existence, what's the price we pay? The sources point very specifically to the potential erosion of things like empathy and, well, maybe even deep emotion.
How so?
The argument goes something like this. If the physical stuff, the biology that causes fear, pain, vulnerability, if that's removed or bypassed, then the biological need for the corresponding empathy for compassion might just fade away. You could be left with a consciousness that's purely rational, maybe. Colder.
Yeah, they use that really evocative phrase in the readings. The brittleness that makes existence meaningful, that sense of fragility, right? Knowing that time is limited, that things break, that you have to put in effort. That's often what gives our relationships, our achievements, their actual value. If suffering and death just vanish, does love even mean the same thing?
It spirals pretty quickly into a major existential identity crisis. Think about it. If your entire awareness, your personality, all your memories can be digitized, copied, maybe run on multiple servers simultaneously, which one is the real you?
Is it the original decaying biological one? Is it the perfect cloud duplicate? Is it all of them?
Exactly. It fundamentally challenges our very notion of a single, unique self.
And we really need to stress this point.
Oh.
This isn't some far-off future philosophical puzzle anymore.
Yep.
These identity questions, they're becoming tangible today. I mean, scientists are already deep in testing advanced neural connections. They're creating functional artificial organs, developing AI companions that are getting incredibly sophisticated. We are blurring the lines between biological life and technological existence much, much faster than I think most people grasp.
And if you just look at the immediate applications being explored, the urgency is clear. The fact that this line is blurring so rapidly brings us straight to the absolutely monumental societal and ethical dilemmas we're facing as this tech moves out of the lab and inevitably into the market.
Okay, yeah. The ethical minefield. Let's talk about the most immediate, maybe the most visceral social problem here: access. If this technology actually delivers on its promise of radical life extension or even effective immortality, who gets it? Who gets it first? Does everyone get it eventually or not?
That's the absolute crux of it, isn't it? And it's inherently tied up with economics. The development costs for things like advanced gene therapies, comprehensive BCIs, they are astronomical. The sources we read make a pretty compelling and frankly worrying case that the initial users will almost exclusively be the hyper-wealthy, the powerful.
Which then raises what was, for me, the most jarring concern in the source material. The idea that this technology could create the single biggest division in human history.
Yeah.
Not just rich and poor, but, well, the sources use the term digital gods. The wealthy become these augmented beings with potentially infinite lifespans, enhanced abilities, while everyone else remains, and they use this stark phrase, biological relics.
Yeah, and that term biological relics, it needs unpacking. It's chilling. It refers to those people who remain unaugmented, living out a natural lifespan defined by disease, aging, death, while the augmented have essentially transcended those limitations. The divide isn't just about wealth anymore. It potentially becomes a divide in mortality itself.
A mortality gap.
Yeah.
That kind of technological class split, it just fundamentally rewrites our entire social contract, doesn't it? If consciousness becomes something you can transfer, replicate, do our existing ideas about human rights, about legal protections, even applying the same way to both the unaugmented and the augmented.
And that forces this really difficult question about digital personhood. If a digital copy of someone's awareness believes it's human, acts with all the complexity and nuance of a human, does it have the same moral standing? Would it be considered, I don't know, murder to erase a replicated consciousness if it pleads for its existence? We're being forced to figure out the very criteria for personhood before these technologies become widespread. It's backward, almost.
So, pulling this together, the synthesis seems vital here. While transhumanism holds out this promise of incredible exponential progress, maybe unparalleled life, it simultaneously demands a complete fundamental redefinition of identity, of morality, of the entire structure of society as we know it. It's like changing the rules of the game just as we're maybe entering the final innings.
It really does feel like a pivotal moment in history. As we sort of wrap up this deep dive, maybe it helps to frame transhumanism not purely as like abandoning humanity, but perhaps as the most dramatic, maybe the most accelerated way of actually learning its true meaning, of figuring out what's truly essential about us before we potentially transcend it.
That's an interesting way to put it, because historically evolution has always been about transformation, hasn't it? We've gone from single cells to complex consciousness,
Right.
from chipping away at stone tools to literally forging neural links with the technology we build. Maybe this movement is just the next stage, arguably the most self-aware stage of that ongoing evolution.
It could be. But as we get closer to this potential final merger with our own creations, with our machines, there is one really profound, still unresolved question that hangs over everything in the source material. Something that demands reflection long after we finish talking here. Will we even remember what it felt like to be merely human, to be just one, when and if we finally transcend humanity?